everybody, it is RL, the Retro Pizza Guy, coming to you again from my channel. And guess what? Here we go with another episode of Retro Live. It's been a very long time, almost a year. I cannot believe it. But anyways, here we go. And we're going to be reviewing the classic game for the Sega Genesis, Golden Axe. And once again, here is my good friend and co-host, CK.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
Alright, so let's get right into it with Golden Axe.
Yes.
One of the original games for the Sega Genesis.
Yes, Golden Axe. Golden Axe is a side-scroll beat-em-up for those that haven't played it or have seen it. And it's a video game developed and published by Sega for arcades and the Genesis in 1989. Now, fun note, the designer, Makoto Uchida, who also created Altered Beast the previous year. So it's the same guy, and I love both of those games. You basically play as one of three warriors who must free the land of Uria from a tyrannical rule of the one who wields the Golden Axe, and his name is Death Adder. So this is your bad guy, your boss. Yeah?
So let's get started with the review. It's been a while, so we start with graphics first. So what'd you think of the graphics in this game, CK?
The graphics are pretty good for its time. I like the fact that the sprites, even during this time in the console ported version, that the sprites are large, where they have nice shadow to them. The levels have detail in them. They're not blocky or big blocks of colors like Nintendo's Mega Man and stuff like that of the era. I think coming into the 90s, these 16-bit consoles were doing a lot more with shading and characters, or at least having two tones of shading and stuff like that to give it some depth. The home console version was not poorly ported by any means. Quite frankly, it doesn't have the softness that the arcade version does, but they did a pretty good job getting it to the Genesis. And I think Sega did a better job porting arcade games to their console than Nintendo did at the time. The animation levels are really good, and it was a good reproduction of a game that came from the arcade port. And because I enjoy the way this game looks, I will give it a retro love.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Alright, so graphics for me. I like the graphics. I mean, you could tell it's an earlier Genesis game back in the day. When Genesis came out, they were massive sprites. I think the sprites maybe got a little smaller as the Genesis went on, but maybe that's just my opinion. I find the graphics are a little flat. That's when in the early era of Genesis games, I think a lot of the animation or the characters came out a little bit more one-dimensional. They look like cut out pieces, kind of. That's the earlier days of Genesis. I feel the texture, the depth of character wasn't really as strong as later on. But that doesn't mean the graphics are terrible. They're still very good, detailed, and look like what they're supposed to look like. There's a lot of different variations of characters and villains, and I like the creatures. They are nice level design creatures. Level design. They're nice creature designs. Yes. The dragons and the fire coming out of them. Those creatures that you hop on and use as fighting.
Oh yes,
a way to fight
beasts. Yes.
You're fighting beasts. They're really nice looking. So graphics will get a retro love. Retro love. Nice. Alright, so moving on to music and sound effects. So what'd you think of the music and sound effects in Golden Axe, CK?
Super basic. Like that's the takeaway. Anyone who plays this game will just be like, oh. Like it's like 5 to 8 sounds. It's so sharp and dramatic. And I wanted to know what the arcade version sounded like, so I went and watched a playthrough of the arcade. It's a little bit nicer, but it's still pretty poor for games at least that came out on the Genesis. We know that the Sega has always had a really good play at audio. Like that's a huge thing for them with their console, the Master System, and the Genesis specifically. And I felt that the production just failed on giving this game more oomph with just better sound effects. The only thing really that's cool in this that I think that we'll all remember is that Wilhelm scream every time someone dies. That's pretty much it. Anything after that is pretty much just thuds and bumps. Like the slashes don't sound like slashes. Metal doesn't sound like metal. Nothing sounds like it should. But other than somebody dying, that's pretty much it. There's a lot of loops, and the level, the music, the level music is pretty good. It's not great because it's not really environmentally immersive like some other games we've reviewed. But if you do remember anything about a level, you might remember the music the most because everything else is monotonous. So I guess it has a positive point. But all in all, I think that it's just going to be an okay experience with the sound effects and music in this game. And for that, I give it a retro-like.
Nice, retro-like. Alright, so music and sound for me, yeah, the sound effects are pretty basic. There's not really a lot of sound effects, a lot of screaming, as you said, and there's some hack and slash sounds, but nothing sounds, anything that really impresses for that era. Right. There's a lot of better games out there that have better use of sound effects, so I'm not gonna really focus so much on the sound effects because there's a little bit of annoying sounds. The screaming gets a little bit on edge. It's annoying. I mean, I understand it needs to be in there, but I think it could have been a little more subtle. I think they just pasted it in there with the audio clips, and it just doesn't work, in my opinion. And it's not terrible by any means. It's just not as effective a sound effect as it should have been.
Right.
Music is decent. I mean, I've heard a lot worse. I mean, it's not terrible. I was listening to it, most of the levels, watching it on YouTube and playing it because I can't get that far. I just didn't really jive to the music. I mean, it's definitely no Streets of Rage 2.
No, it's no Streets of Rage. No game is Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah, no, definitely no game is Streets of Rage 2 in terms of music. The music is epic in that game. But this game, it's not bad. It works for the game. I'm trying to be reasonable because it's not terrible. The music actually feels appropriate to the actual game, and there's a lot of music that doesn't fit the game they're trying to put it into. So in this case, it does work. So I'm not going to bash it for that. I did enjoy it enough, but it's nothing that I would want to listen to over and over again. It would get a little annoying.
Yes.
Some sections, some levels are better than others. I'm just going to give my review and just rate it. I'm going to give it a double like.
Double like.
Double like for music and sound. It's not a love, but it's definitely not a terrible soundtrack. And I think I lowered it because of the sound effects are annoying. But other than that, it's actually quite enjoyable, and it's just not that memorable in my opinion.
I agree.
Not as epic. Alright, so moving on to the gameplay. What did you think of the gameplay in Golden Axe?
I enjoyed the gameplay in Golden Axe. I like beat-em-ups. And I think it's a thing about beat-em-ups. Is if you enjoy beat-em-ups in general, then most beat-em-ups, regardless of the theme, regardless of the console, regardless of the era it came out, you'll play it because it's about the challenge. It's about the variety of bosses. It's about reading the patterns. It's about progressively getting better every time you play the game. And playing the game should be entertaining. And I think most beat-em-ups usually are. This one is. Though it can get repetitive at times, I think the addition of the beasts definitely add to the enjoyment factor. And I think the little break when you have to when you're camping and you have to hit those little sprites that run around, the little dwarves or whatever they are, and get the to get the little potions for your magic from them. Yeah. That's a nice little break in the game that they didn't necessarily need to put in, but it adds a little challenge and a little enjoyment and gives you a bit of a bonus. Something that you're looking forward to at the end of the level type of thing. So, to me, I'm enjoying the gameplay for this game. I've always enjoyed the gameplay for this game. I like the fact that it's got different game modes, too. Like, you've got your standard, your beat-em-up standard play, and you've got this one called Duel, which allows you to kind of fight baddies 1v1. And, you have a fixed health bar. They have a fixed health bar. You battle them, and when they die, you move on. It's kind of like this ladder system where you fight different baddies, and as you lose life, it stays, and it's basically a challenge to see how far you can get and how effective you are as a warrior in the game. And those things in this game add so much level to something that seems so basic, and it doesn't make the game basic anymore. So gameplay gets a retro double love from me. straight up and down, no
Yeah,
questions.
I saw that coming. Yeah, double love for gameplay. Yeah, you love this game. I know you told me.
I do. It could have been something stale and boring. It really wasn't.
Yep. Alright, so gameplay for me. It is enjoyable gameplay. It does get repetitive, but there are a lot of things in this gameplay that makes it enjoyable. As you said, I like the beasts, as I mentioned. I was basically commenting on the beasts as a graphical thing, but now I'm going to comment them as a gameplay mechanism too. The beasts really add a lot of variety, and there's different beasts that you could use. I love the one with the fire that comes out of the fire breath. It's so cool. Anytime you have a character you jump onto and use as a fire beast to destroy your enemies, I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. I really love that element, the fire. I don't know why I enjoy it so much. It's a lot of fun. It makes it fun. So yeah, there's moments where you're hacking a lot, and those hack and slash games can be very repetitive.
Yes.
But there's different varieties of bosses, different varieties of characters. You could choose from 3 different characters, which have a different style of attack and power.
That's right.
So that adds to the variety and making it less monotonous and boring. And of course, when you're finish a level, you're sort of in a camp area with a little fire there, and you got those little creatures that they take the jewels or whatever, the potions you said,
Yep.
and you have to fight them. They're a little hard to catch because they move really fast,
They
but
do.
it changes it makes the variety there. It's a lot more variety than some other games. So they put effort in the gameplay. It's obviously an arcade game, so it's a great game, and it's ported, so they did a good job. Alright, so I'm going to give the gameplay a love.
Okay.
I don't love it as much as you, but I do love it, so
Fantastic.
it is a love. Yeah, it's a great game. I mean, that's why I played it on my RL Play section. Alright, so moving on to controls. What did you think of the controls in Golden Axe, CK?
The controls are tight enough for a beat 'em up. Obviously, it's no Mario tight, but it is definitely a beat 'em up tight. I think the characters move a bit slow for my liking in this game, but I guess that's how they pace the game too, because it's not a very long game, honestly. I like the fact that you can map your buttons. A lot of games didn't give you that option. You played whatever they gave you. You can go into your settings and you can map your jump, your attack, and your magic button, which is pretty cool for those that like to have certain buttons in certain ways. I personally do. I like having my jump in front of my attack button, always. In any game, doesn't matter. Left is the jump, right is the attack. Just how my hands worked. So a lot of games defaulted it, so I like the fact that they can give you that option. Outside of that, there's nothing really to write home about for controls. It serves its purpose. It makes the game feel light and easy, but like, again, the pacing, it's kind of like walking through mud. You're getting there, but you have the control, and you don't feel as though you're being restricted in any way. And because of that, it gets a retro double like.
Double like, awesome. Yeah, controls for me. Yeah, basic controls, gets the job done. I like to say that. It doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't have to do anything special. It doesn't have to be Mario controls, because there's no real platforming in this game. There's a couple jumps here and there, but there's nothing that you need to have pinpoint accuracy in your controls.
That's right.
Very basic. You got the stabbing, the hack and slashing, jumping, and pretty much that's about it. Moving side to side, obviously, and getting on top of your beast with the fire. It's simple, it's effective, it gets the job done. It doesn't take away from the game in frustration. You're always able to do what you want. You're able to move smoothly. You're able to chop at baddies smoothly. You're able to jump onto the creatures pretty smoothly. I think it was, well, I'm not saying pretty smoothly, very smoothly.
Very smooth.
Everything's smooth. It's not choppy. Even though the animations look a little flat, it doesn't really play a part in the controls of the controls being flat or choppy or anything like that. It works. It's polished. So I give the controls a retro love for controls.
Cool.
Because they just don't piss me off.
That's the key, right?
Well, if they piss me off, I would be like, oh, this shit, and every time I play the game, I never feel like I have any troubles with the
Right.
controls. I'm just, if the game is hard, it's on me, not the controls. There's a lot of
Right.
games where, you're just like, oh, the controls are just brutal, and then you're like throwing the controller against the wall, and this is not a game that I would throw the controller against the wall, so it gets a retro love.
Fantastic.
So moving on to the difficulty. What did you think of the difficulty in this game, CK?
Out of the gate, the difficulty is fair, very fair. In the settings, you can adjust I think that you can adjust the life meter of your character, which I think by default is 3, maybe 4, and I think it goes up to like 5 or 6. But the fact that you can adjust the life meter, I don't think it directly affects the actual difficulty of the game itself. It just gives you more buffer or more padding so that, your end game or your continues come after 2 or 3 more deaths as opposed to, the limited amount that you have. It's kind of like Contra and the 99 lives versus the 3 or 4 lives that you start with. So it doesn't affect the difficulty, really. It just affects the gameplay. I don't know. I think it scales well. Every beat 'em up is difficult because it's just the way it is until you learn the patterns. Once you do, difficulty is like thrown out the window at that point. So to me, difficulty gets a pretty baseline score, and I'm going to give it a retro-like.
I hear you on that. Alright, so difficulty for me. Yeah, the game feels pretty standard difficulty. It doesn't feel like a crazy difficult game. If you put the effort into it, you could get pretty far as long as you're paying attention and focused and you just don't get bored, I guess. I'm not saying the game is boring, but if you put some effort into it, the difficulty is reasonable. It's not something that is overly difficult for some games in that era where you would really get some really difficult games like Contra Hard Corps, which I'd love to review with you one day, but that game is super difficult. This game is pretty easy compared to a game like that.
Right,
so
right.
middle of the ground difficulty. How do you rate difficulty? I mean, honestly, I don't really give retro loves or double loves to difficulty because most games are somewhat difficult. So it does what it needs to do. It's enjoyable. It's not a level of difficulty that frustrates, which I will give it a higher score because of that, and I will give it a retro double like for difficulty.
All right.
So moving on to the fun factor. What'd you think of the fun factor in this game?
I enjoyed the game, and that goes beyond all the other bits that I've already touted about this game and what I enjoy about it on those specific elements. Overall, I've always enjoyed this game from day one, and I always will continue to enjoy this game because of its simplicity and its basic fun. It's just a fun game to play, and I think it's inherent with beat 'em ups and shoot 'em ups. If you enjoy that type of game, that genre of gaming, you'll more or less enjoy most of them across the board. All it is just graphics, whatever little bonus things that they add, or whatever little charm that they add, kind of like Streets of Rage, and the music. It adds to an already good game. So to me, this game as a standalone is a great experience, and it's fun, and there's nothing else about it that I should say. And because that is the case, I will give it a retro love. Not a double love, just a love.
I thought you were going to give it a double love. So
No, it's not. It's
I
not
was
a
putting in-
fantastic game, but I enjoy playing.
Oh, come on.
it, so it
You
is,
double love this game. You know it. Anyways, all right.
In my heart of hearts, I double love this game.
Yeah, you said it's so awesome. I'm so positive you're going to give it a double love. I would have wrote it in ink. I would have wrote it in ink if you gave it a double love. But no, I didn't. I put it in pencils. All right, so fun factor for me. I don't have as much experience with this game as you. I enjoy the game. Obviously, as you can see, my scores reflect that. I do enjoy Golden Axe 2 a little better because I played that a lot when I started to get into retro gaming a number of years ago. I had the second one, never had the first one, so I enjoyed the second one a little bit more. I don't know why, just something about that game. Maybe it was the cover art. I really thought the cover art was really cool. But that doesn't. You don't play the cover art. You play the game.
That's right.
But for fun, it's a enjoyable game. As I said, I'm gonna reiterate. I love the dragons. Didn't mention about the skeletons. I love skeletons in
You
games
do love
for some reason.
skeletons, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you listen to my RL Plays occasionally, and there's a couple of games that I played recently that have skeletons in it, and I always comment, oh, I love those skeletons, there's something cool about skeletons. I don't know why. Walking skeletons are fun to fight against. I have no idea. It's like, how do they move? Where's their muscles? This is so cool. Magic involved. I don't know why. So, for fun factor, because of skeletons and dragons that throw fire at your enemies, I'm going to give the fun factor a retro love as well.
Right. Yeah. Great reasons. Honestly, great reasons.
I think there are great reasons. Why not, right?
Why not? Yeah.
It is skeletons and fire from a dragon. I mean, you can't criticize a game and not give it a love with those two elements in it, in my opinion. So a retro love is obvious. So, all right, moving on to the replay value. What did you think of the replay value in Golden Axe, CK?
Well, the game can be frustrating to play if you're not very good at the concept of the beat 'em ups, or you just you suck at kind of reading the patterns and stuff. Outside of that, though, if you were to play the game and you've never played a beat 'em up, this game could be entertaining. The replay value is definitely there because you always want to get better. I think anybody who plays video games has this internal drive to be better at it. And I think that's just with everything in general, but I think it really exists in the gaming space very, very strongly. And I'm that guy. I'm a competitive type of person in real life, and when it comes to video games, I take them seriously. So replay value in things like games like this that are games that you progressively get better is high. It's always going to be high, and it's not a long game again. So you know that you're not in it for 40, 50 hours. You're in it for 40 to 50 minutes. So once you kind of clear the game, you can play it again if you want to. But I think most of the replay will come with just getting better to be able to clear the game. Clear the game with confidence, clear the game with high scores. And with that, I replay value for me gets a retro double like.
All right, cool. Good score. Replay value for me, I don't know. These games, there's not a lot of games in this era that I feel the replay value, other than maybe the original Contra or a few other games that I played, like NHL Hockey or other games back in the day. I think nowadays when I play it, I kind of like, all right, I'll play it for a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to play it again. I didn't play this as a kid, so it's hard to say what the replay value would be for me, so I have to sort of use my imagination. So using my imagination, because the skeletons would probably be good, and dragons, so there is some replay value there. I think this game, once you finish it or you get pretty far, I don't know if I'd want to play it again from start to finish, but I would probably play it for a while to try to finish it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I don't know if we're talking about replay value as in like starting the game, finishing, and then replaying it again, probably a lower
not.
score.
Yeah.
But if you're playing it to try to win and beat it, replay value where you just keep on plugging away for the game and just saying, okay, we want to play it till we get better, there's more replay there.
Yes.
So I'm going to give replay a like as well.
All right.
Okay, this is the portion of the review where we tabulate the influence score. So what do you give the influence for Golden Axe, CK?
Golden Axe, I don't know. I think it was influenced by a lot of things, especially like Conan the Barbarian and stuff like that from the 80s. I don't think it's influenced anything major after that, and so it gets I want to give it a 0, but I think I'm going to give it a 1.
Influence for me, I do think the game had some influence in that era of beat 'em up. Can't imagine it being no influence. Probably took a lot from Conan the Barbarian movies and Arnold Schwarzenegger one.
Red Sonja.
Oh yeah,
which is also tied to the Conan series, I guess.
Yeah, that was basically a spin-off of Conan in a way. So that really is the same universe there. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1 as well. I don't think it really influenced a lot, but I wouldn't say it's 0. I think it deserves at least a 1. Alright, so this is the portion of the review where we flip a coin and decide the next game for you guys to watch. So I'm gonna choose Lemmings. What's your choice, CK?
I'm gonna go with Al Unser Jr.
Alright.
Heads high.
I'm gonna flip. Alright, heads high as always. And of course, it's tails.
Oh, God. Oh, the universe.
Tails.
The universe does not have it in for you when it comes to coin flips, Ron.
Apparently.
Sorry.
I gotta fix that. All right, so you get to choose.
All right. Well, I'm going to choose Al Unser. I really want to do a racing game. I don't think we've reviewed anything outside of that, and
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the racing games from that era. I did play Al Unser Jr., I believe, for the NES. I think I had it as a kid.
oh, nice.
Yeah, so cool. Racing game for our first time reviewing a racing game. That'll be a lot of fun. I think I'm going to be hard on it, but we'll see because I don't think racing games have aged as well as some of the other games from that era.
They
But
have
that's
not.
just my opinion. But then again, we got to look at it with the lens of the 1980s and 90s. All right, so this was our review of Golden Axe for the Sega Genesis. It was a fun review, as always.
As
Thanks
always.
for reviewing the game with me, Suke.
You're welcome.
Alright, so on that note, we will have more retro content in the weeks, months, and years to come. Bye for now.
Ciao, folks.